Welcome back to our politics. Now, the far-right Sweden Democrats, they're changing their stance on the EU after campaigning earlier this year on leaving the bloc and calling for a referendum on the issue. Party leader Jimmy Åkesson now says Sweden should stay and shake up the institution from within. Åkesson said, and I quote, "Cooperation is needed to achieve results, and it is through collaboration that opportunities for reforming the EU from the inside are improved." And he also said when other parties try to portray the Sweden Democrats as a protectionist and closed party, it is a false image only intended to distort and smear the Sweden Democrats. We see the benefits, not only the disadvantages of today's EU cooperation. All right, joining me in the studio now to discuss this, we have Stephen Wolf. He's a British independent MEP. And we also have Jan Zahradil. He's a Czech MEP with the European Conservatives and Reformists Group. And still with us is Darren McCaffrey, our political editor. All right, what do you think is really behind this U-turn of Jimmy Åkesson? Now he's talking about cooperation and collaboration.
Well, I think one of the key objectives of the Brexit negotiations from the European Union's perspective was to make sure that any country that considered going down the line of the UK and having a Brexit, a Swexit, a Lexit, an Irexit, was informed that they would be incredibly difficult to go. You would make your life a misery.
And well, it's a hard negotiation.
And that's exactly what they've done. So it's job one achieved by the European Union. And I think that is one of the key points that we can take from this process. And so what you're seeing with the Swedish Democrats is them taking stock of what happened with Marine Le Pen when they had her campaign and looking at this process and saying, at this moment in time, whilst Britain is deemed to have a bad deal, then I don't think it's in our interest to actually go down that same line. However, that's politics of today. In a couple of years' time, when you see that Britain is succeeding, we're doing very well, jobs are still going, I think you'll start to see a different stance because the European Union's economy will start to decline again.
Well, that is something that we will have to wait and see. I mean, Jan, what do you think? Is this just an act of desperation on their part? You know, and they say trying to change from within. Do you believe that?
Look, they are already members of our parliamentary group. We have two Swedish Democrats as members of the ECR group. And the policy of our group has never been to leave the European Union. There is no party, no ECR member party that would promote a program designed to leave the European Union.
But the Sweden Democrats, they campaigned for that, and people probably voted for them on that point.
But
so
we agreed on a very close cooperation. We expect them to join our group after 2019 elections. And I think that from their point of view, it's much more beneficial for them to be part of a Euro-realistic mainstream, so say, which wants to reform EU from within, than to come with pretty much unrealistic scenario to leave the European Union.
So in fact, the question we were asking before the break is that, do you think, is this actually the best thing, Brexit, the best thing that happened to the unity of the European Union, because it would dissuade people from actually leaving?
So I think there are several things here. I think political parties like the Swedish Democrats and Marine Le Pen, to a degree, are having to reflect actually the view of the public. They're following rather than leading, because, as Stephen has rightly pointed out, people are looking at Brexit and thinking, you know what, if the second largest economy that's not in the Eurozone can't leave and it's easy, then how can someone like France leave, or indeed a much smaller nation? And I think we've now got to the point where the Eurozone, with a Eurozone country, I mean, it would be almost impossible, unless the whole thing fell apart, for them to leave. But is it good for the European Union? I'm not entirely sure it is. And you can make this point. You can make the point that Britain's been the naughty boy, the kind of grumbling teenager, and actually, you know, to have them out of the room so you can have deeper European integration, that would be good. But I think Britain has been a kind of equilibrium to France, which Germany has very cleverly leveraged from time to time, because clearly Britain is much more free market, much more of a liberal economy, and Germany have used that leverage sometimes against the Franco-German relationship.
Yeah, what do you want to say?
You said, you put a question whether Brexit, in fact, is getting European Union more united.
Yes.
I wouldn't say so. I think that there will be still a great discrepancies between and amongst individual political streams within the European Union. We, of course, for instance, we deny and we reject this federalist stream, which is represented by the European People's Party and by socialists and by liberals. And we would be happy if we are joined by more parties that do not want to leave, do not want to dismantle, do not want to destroy, but do want to reform the European Union.
Okay, fine. Because I just want to raise the point that Jan raised, that he said that you want to reform from the inside. Is it reforming, changing European from the inside, or tearing it apart?
I think it's very difficult. I appreciate Jan and his party and those within there, because there are very decently thinking people about the difficulties and problems of the Eurozone. The euro is definitely a currency that is damaging countries on the periphery and is helpful to those in the centre. But you're going to have a unified army, you're going to have a European UCB, you're going to have a unified central corporation tax, the CCTB. So my question is to yourselves, is you're all saying we want to reform, but the movement, the train is going down the ladder.
Well, I tell you, my country is not part of the Eurozone. Sweden is not part of the Eurozone. And one of our slogans in the electoral campaign will be that we want to turn European Union from one currency union to multi-currency union. This is, I think, a very strong slogan that I would say.
That's definitely something you would change from within.
I mean,
okay, last point, Darren.
I don't see how you can say you're against European integration and be an active member of the European Union.
It's like having your cake and eating it too, isn't it?
You know, I mean, take a leaf out of Protestantism. I mean, at least they broke away from the Catholic Church for a reason and made a success of it. You know, remaining inside, you're going to tinker at the edges, I think.